talking to Billie Groom today, who is the founder of the Institute of Canine Psychotherapy. And she has developed a protocol related to behavior, addressing behavior in dogs called canine cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's something that's pretty unique to what she's doing. And it's also in line with what we've been talking about in our last two episodes of The Broken Leash, talking about how behavior develops, how families sometimes come to a point where they just don't know what to do. And so then the logical question after that is, so what do we do? Welcome, Billie. I'm always glad to see you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It's always great chatting. We always have such interesting and robust conversations. I love it. Thank you for having me.
I learn so much from you every time I talk to you. So I'll just jump right in. When a family reaches a point where they say, this dog just isn't working out, what are the first things that they really need to understand or ask themselves before they make a choice about surrender or some rehoming some other plan?
I think it has a lot to your first two episodes on this were really good because what it did was sort of show how this builds, right? I mean, normally people don't go from 0 to 100 and say, I love my dog is great. They can, dogs can annoy us in one moment for one. It's like, "Ah, I'm trying to talk on the phone and, but it doesn't go to that extreme. It usually is developed as you've been putting forth and showing people. So it's a development.
And by the time families come to you, they've often probably already tried to get help, right?
By the time people reached out, they had hired 1 to 3 certified, good, successful, reputable trainers, behaviorists, or behavioral veterinarian and/or. So what this shows us is that there are people that are trying. They're reaching out. They're trying to get different solutions or methods or strategies, because when one isn't working, or maybe it worked during puppyhood, or maybe it worked for a certain time period, whether that's the age of the dog or whether maybe it addressed some of their situations but not others, that's okay. So that's going to happen. I think what's most important is to be able to say, yeah, my dog is changing. I can see my dog changing. So therefore, logically, what was working before, it's okay to say that it's not working now. And as a practitioner, we should be saying that. It's like this, it doesn't make one method better than the other or right or wrong. It means that we did well with them with that method, and now they're developing and growing, which is good. So let's do that with them.
So, Billie, how much should we be focused on what caused the behavior in the first place?
We do recognize that all of this may have stemmed from a horrible situation or lack of this or too much of that. But we can also move on from that. Say, how's that dog feeling right now and why? And let's give the dog the tools to think that through.
I can imagine that it's very hard for people, especially who've gotten to that point where they're just really, really frustrated, to be patient. They themselves just mentally need it to stop. And I get that.
You're right. Yeah, you're totally right. It's telling people to be patient is like telling people to be patient. It's not a solution. But when people start to see change or progress, or they enjoy implementing the exercises and they see things happen and they feel more bonded with their dog, that inherently creates motivation and patience.
Both sides of the leash.
Sides. Yes, on both ends of the leash. Yes. And we repair the broken leash. Yes. That's very true.
Sometimes families say that a dog just doesn't fit their lifestyle anymore. But when you break that down, what can that actually mean?
A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, it's grounded in a behavior that is preventing the people from being able to live a lifestyle that they really need to live. So for example, before they had their baby, they could walk their dog just with their dog, and they could more easily avoid other dogs or stimuli that might create a challenge, or they could manage it if they happen to come around a corner and there's a dog. When they now have a baby, they have to be, time constraints, weather, just the area they live in, work, all sorts of things might prevent them from walking really early or really late with a baby and a stroller. So now they have to walk the baby in the stroller, but now the dog doesn't walk well with the stroller. So now they have to keep the baby at home while they walk the dog. So somebody has to be there and then maybe they have to leave the dog there when they go for a walk with their baby. But then that's a problem because the dog shows signs of either FOMO or separation anxiety, which are two very different things. So now it's challenging to leave the dog behind. So now they have to get somebody to stay with the dog while and this just doesn't suit our lifestyle. Like, we can't do this. We can't do this forever. So what we're really saying is, if you could walk your dog and your baby together, would you keep your dog? Yes.
Before a family decides that their dog's behavior is impossible to live with, what's the first thing you want them to do?
We hear this a lot. We've tried everything. So first of all, just research and learn about what you've done, what you've really done. Like, so pet parents will often tell, they'll tell me what they've done. And then when I explain to them, oh, well, that's just, that's a version of conditioning. It works, but it would work with a dog that has this situation or is under 6 months, or this is why it's effective here. This is why you're not finding a lot of success with your dog.
If what they come to you with, or just in general have a sense of, we've tried everything and it didn't work, sort of asking that next question of like, is there a reason why it didn't work? Just sort of digging deeper into, don't just assume there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah.
If someone remembers only one thing from this conversation, what do you want people to remember?
If they're at the stage of researching solutions, that's a chunk of the battle right there. And when their dog does a bad behavior, just remember that your dog loves you and you love your dog. And it's something that is not unsurmountable. It's something that is, we can do this. We can do this. It's something we can work through and we can do, and reach out. You're allowed to say, why would you do this? Why would you do this? And then think, truly why? Why are you doing this? Maybe there's something I'm missing. Let's figure that out.
And maybe that's the place to start. Before deciding there's nothing else you can do, ask whether there's something you haven't understood yet. My thanks to Billie Groom for joining me and for a conversation that actually continued for another half hour after we stopped recording. Until next time, thank you for caring, thank you for sharing, and thank you for being part of the solution. Together, we can keep more dogs with the families who love them. This is The Broken Leash, a National Canine Advocacy Group series.